Struthy, his head buried in the sand.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If I could have everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening, everyone. Linda, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Adam Cohen.
Settling in.
Councilor Stacy Langdon. Here. Councilor Steve Fields.
Here.
Councilor Tyler Wade.
Here.
Councilor Mark Hammer. Councilor Gary Lemon.
Here.
Councilor Dave Murray.
Here.
And we don't have any formal public petitions or special requests this evening unless somebody in the audience has one for us. Hearing none, we will go on to department reports. If anybody wants to come forward or if council has any questions, naturally Rod's got a few programs that I'm sure he'd like to market for the benefit of our public.
You missed last
Good
month.
evening. Do what?
You missed last month.
Yes, I was
We're
in
done quickly.
You don't get double time.
I was in Brick World Fort Wayne, displaying our Lego stuff. So, all right. Well, what I'm going to do is you got my newsletter. I'll let you guys read it. But what I want to point out is that this time I put in a monthly newsletter that we just distributed online, and next week it'll go through the school system. Just want to remind everybody that we are accepting registrations for both our youth basketball and My First Shot basketball programs. November 29th is the deadline for that. This Sunday, we're set up here in City Hall. We got a Brick Mania program. It's Gobbler Days, meaning we have a Lego, the official Lego turkey Thanksgiving Brickheads kit that we're going to be putting together. Gives the kids opportunities to build with Lego here in the park, or here in City Hall. It's chilly outside. It'll be nice and warm in here. Monday, we're here. I believe that this is wrong. We're not at the Putnam County Library. We are actually here at City Hall. We're celebrating Mickey Mouse's birthday. And we've got holiday contests coming up, our Gingerbread House, Brick Mania, Santa's Sled contest for a park board meeting on Thursday night, December 5th. We have our annual phone calls from Santa program coming up. We have a Brick Mania Lego Christmas party scheduled for Saturday afternoon, December 7th here at City Hall. We're doing our Breakfast with the Grinch program Saturday morning, December 14th, and then to close the month, Saturday, December 28th, we're doing a Paint Your Rock theme. This is where we, again, give the kids something to do while they're on break. Come in and for $1 they can paint a rock with some images. We've got some winter images, penguins, that kind of thing, or maybe a message of inspirational message of some sort. But anyway, we've got many programs coming up between now and into the month of January. I just want to remind everybody to go to www.greencastleparks.com. All of the information for our programs are available online. Registration can be online, as well as here at City Hall. We have many hard copy registration forms. So that's all I've got to report. If anybody would, oh, I forgot the new one. Sorry. Friday, December 6th, that's Friday after our park board meeting, we're working with 2 Bonner Scholars from DePaul University. They wanted to do a fundraiser for our department, and the pink sheet in the back of your packet there, the seasonal pie baking contest and fundraiser is something they came up with. So what we're going to do is we're going to host a pie baking contest, and we're going to go to Hoover Hall with this one. The idea is to, try to recruit as many pie bakers as possible. They'll be sampling them, handing out awards, and then they're going to sell the pies by the slice that evening as the fundraiser for the department. And what we're going to use the funds for is to put together a scholarship program for some of our youth programs. Okay, but they have 3 fun categories. We're looking at, of course, one of the Bonner Scholars, her favorite pie is sweet potato. So we have a sweet potato recipe. The other one, we have, of course, fruit pie, and then the second Bonner, her favorite is key lime pie.
Pumpkin pie, that's my thing.
Sweet potato, yeah, so, or
for
fruit,
the
yeah.
bachelors to cook.
Hey, I'm going to give it a try. I've already, my favorite pie is the key lime, so I said, you know what, I'll give it a try.
I've done 1 or 2 at the fair. I haven't done well, but we'll try.
All right. So, yeah, so if you're into pie baking and would like to try. There is a fee to enter. But again, these fees are to go towards scholarships for youth programs, okay?
Last year, Breakfast with the Grinch, didn't you sell out, or?
We have sold out 3 years in a row.
Folks need to get online soon?
Yes, they need to. We're already 21 of the 40 spots are taken, so yes.
And how
We're
old is
still a month
Mickey?
out. I'm sorry, what?
How old is Mickey?
I'm sorry, I didn't look that
Okay,
up. I'm sorry.
tell us next month.
But, yes.
Rod, the park, the paving part will not happen on the tennis courts until this spring? this point?
I'm not gonna say that officially, but as cold
the
as it is
temperature, yeah,
outside,
that's
and the
what I mean.
temperatures, asphalt needs to be at least 40 for the base coat, and I think it's 50-something and rising for the top coat. So I'm gonna bet at this point, we're gonna wait till spring.
I did talk to our city engineer this afternoon. She contacted me late. I played telephone tag a little bit. And she indicated that if we are fortunate to have a week of good weather, they will try to get it in. We were battling our line in line with other projects the
Right.
paving contractor was doing, and then nobody would have guessed that we'd have the lowest temperatures for the first week in November.
Right.
Right, and knowing that the asphalt's got to cure for at least 30, I believe 30 days before they can put the top coloring coat on and the stripes or the lines, I would say it's probably a good bet dollars to donuts that it'll probably.
Farmers Almanac's calling for a late spring, so.
I'd still
good.
rather do it right.
Yeah, and that's my feeling, so, yeah,
It won't surprise me if we get the base coat down, but the top coat waits till spring.
right. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, you guys stay warm.
Okay, thanks, Rod. Reports were included in packets. Does anybody have any questions for any of our other department heads?
I assume that we're done with leaf collection.
No,
No.
We're gonna try.
they picked up yesterday. They
Yeah,
were back picking up.
They're picking up.
Their leaf collection was underway today. It actually started the last week of October. They'll probably
Okay.
run through Thanksgiving, depending on what the need is.
I'll talk with Brad later about my street. That's okay.
That's what, is Brad here?
He's on vacation.
Good
No,
for
he's
him.
yeah.
Good for him.
It's supposed
But
to
the
happen
the crews were out playing catch-up
Today's
today
my
because
trash
they
day.
weren't out earlier in the week because of the weather. So they'll probably be playing catch-up for the next week or so.
It's fine.
Okay, other questions for department heads? Okay, hearing none, department heads are released. And I understand Rod will get with John just in case there's a few burnt pies over on campus to make sure the crews are ready to respond.
Rod, they're not cooking them there, right? They're
No, these are, sorry, these pies are baked at home and carried in.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mayoral report. Prior to the council meeting this evening, the Sustainability Commission recognized several groups and individuals for their efforts throughout the community in the past year. That included Erin Basinger with the Department of Natural Resources for her work with Bike with a Biologist program, the Greencastle Community Garden Group, PCRIP, which is a committee looking to educate the public about invasive species identification and removal, and Myra Leon Koss, who's a Bonner Scholar at DePaul, who's been working with the city on some of these projects as well as some sustainability issues on campus. So those groups and individuals were recognized earlier this evening for their good work to benefit the community. A couple other items to mention. We have received a number of letters of interest on the Human Relations Commission, and so we'll be compiling those. We may also reach out to a few individuals so we have a good mix of expertise that can support Lori in her work as part of the efforts of that commission. Around DePaul campus, we're hoping that Locust Street will be open soon. They were working on the final sewer taps today, and then we'll have to come back and do the paving, but we're getting pretty close with that. Certainly, we lost a few days here because of the weather. Again, we appreciate everybody's patience in that area. College Street has reopened and will be converted back to one-way on Monday. So that's in the works. And then part of Olive Street has been reopened as well. YMCA project, Lori and I on Friday are meeting with Ice Miller to work on the lease. So we've got the details confirmed back from the Y, and we'll be getting that moving forward. We're also working on scheduling a meeting with one of the firms that helped us in our tours earlier in the year to go over the various methods that we can use to implement the project rather than just do a lowest bidder kind of thing. We can do kind of a construction management opportunity, which hopefully might lead to a better quality, higher value project for us.
Mayor, does that mean that the Brazil Y has signed off, that we're now entering into lease discussion with them?
We are putting the final details on the document, which will then go to them for their review, and we'll distribute it to council.
That means it's taken a pretty big step forward.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
And you'll let RDC look at that too?
Yeah, that's why I say we'll distribute it to council. Yeah, Ice Miller is drafting it for us.
Very good.
So, I emailed out to council about the good news about our bond rating, an AA minus, which is very, very good for a community our size. Linda's good work as the clerk treasurer and the coaching we received on how to properly answer the questions from our financial consultants, and some of the information they compiled on our behalf helped us get that good bond rating, and hopefully that will result in better interest rates for us. Normally communities our size will have a A rating of one kind or another. The work is, we'll get started on the bathhouse as soon as we receive some insurance materials from the contractor. And then we've got a meeting on Tuesday to discuss engineering on the slides and other parts of that project. We will have money in hand to start executing those projects probably the first week of December, when we close on the bond issue. We've submitted an application to Next Level Trails to continue the trail along the Southern Highway. We don't know when we'll hear back on that. Probably be after the first of the year, I would guess. Pretty much all of our street and sidewalk work has wrapped up, and I have one last really good news for us. NDOT is willing to fund the water line replacement on Jackson Street and Washington Street, so that is a substantial savings to us. We will pay 10% of the project, and their willingness to support our local efforts, that includes engineering, inspection, as well as construction. So that is a significant savings to the city as a result of NDOT being willing to fund that project. So rather than costing us probably over $2 million, it'll cost us about $248,000. So that's all I have, but I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Wayfinding, Bill?
I'm sorry?
Wayfinding?
The contract's been signed, and the contractor's working on it.
Any rough timetable, Bill, on when we might start to see signage up around town?
I'm sorry?
Any rough idea on timetable when we might be able to see signs up around town?
I haven't had a chance to, get with them on exact timetable yet, but I'll find out and email out to everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Bill, is the city responsible, the trails, is the city responsible for snow plowing those during the winter?
Typically, we have not plowed the trails in the past. Now, there are some neighbors that do plow the trails in their neighborhood, much like they'd shovel their own sidewalk, but
We're not
our
responsible for doing
past
it.
policy is we've not plowed the trails. Now, that
Okay.
could change in the future, but
All
that's
right.
been passed in current practice. And just another comment on the trails, the new trail there along Southern Highway that the public has been using has still not been turned over to us by NDOT. So because that's an NDOT project, they run the show, and when they're comfortable with everything meeting their expectations and standards, they will turn it over to us. So, Linda?
Basically, we've started on our year-end stuff, like I said earlier. We're starting a lot of work on capital assets, so next month you'll have a resolution that will spell out hopefully what we can use for capital assets. So I'll have that for you, and then we'll have all of our transfers, so to make sure we all fall within our money in the budget. I don't know how many of you guys received a brochure from AIM. If you are interested in going to any of the elected official classes, I have forms if you want to go, and we can pay for that. We have money in our budgets for that, and we'll get with our newly elected officials too to sign them up. But AIM training is very good, and you get a lot of opportunity to talk with other elected officials. So if you have the opportunity to go, I would highly recommend it. And that's all I have.
I would like to add one thing. I apologize for overlooking. I would like to publicly thank our Public Works Department that was out pretty much all night, Sunday night and Monday morning, getting the streets cleared for folks, and they did a great job, and all. And Brad's not here, so I had already sent him a little note about that, but our crews did a great job getting all that done. So, Adam?
I'm going to respectfully ask council if they'll let me go last. I want to hear somebody before I make a comment. I'm going to give somebody else a chance to talk before me. Not you.
That's cryptic. That's interesting.
Not cryptic, I just respectful.
Okay. The only thing I have, commenting on what Linda said, 4 years ago I did go to the Ames newly elected official training, found it extremely helpful, and she's right, it's an opportunity to network with other people. Normally they have a mayor come up and give some insights. I think it was the Crawfordsville mayor 4 years ago, and it's a great program, so I'd encourage anybody that's interested to try to find a time that would fit into your calendar. That's it for me.
Just want to echo what Bill said. I thought the Public Works Department getting out and also getting back out so quickly on the leaf pickups.
It's good to be back. Gosh, it's been a crazy fall, but happy to be back. It's interesting. So I was in Dallas, Fort Worth, and then sort of down around the Rio Grande Valley on the border, and would be at different restaurants grabbing something, and people would always ask, "Well, where are you from? Where are you from?" And I said Greencastle, and this one person I said it to was like, "Oh my God, Greencastle's great." They had done business in Chicago. They came down and ate at Bridges for a meal, and they're like, "We love that." We love that place, and I'm thinking, okay, here I am 1,000 miles from home, and people talking about Greencastle, which is a pretty cool thing. So glad to be back. Awesome to sort of pay attention to things that are going on. I guess if I have a comment on gosh, it would be a strange meeting if I didn't talk about state government. But obviously, an important event coming up next Tuesday. With the education rally taking place at the State House. I think hopefully folks are really starting to pay attention to the issues surrounding teacher pay and funding for education in the state. I'm excited that the school corporation is taking the day off of school to be able to send their teachers to go up there to the State House and lobby elected officials for that, but definitely encourage the public to pay attention to that very important discussion going on in our state.
And that is a Red for Ed shirt, not a Wabash shirt.
That's right. It could be red for anything. We're red for anything this week.
Go DePaul.
I have nothing.
With Tyler's decision to run at large, we had a very tight race for at large behind Mark Hammer with Tyler and Gary and myself. We finished within a spread of 28 votes. And unfortunately, Gary was the odd man out. And I am really sorry to lose his kind of perspective and skills. And this will be his last meeting because he's having some surgery in early December. And so I want to take the time to really thank him for the incredible insights he's offered the last 4 years.
Thank you.
I would second, not knowing that, I would definitely second that. Gary's been an awesome part of the city council, and definitely appreciate his perspective and wit and humor. And I guess not only has he been a great city council member, but I think an even better person and friend. And I knew of Gary prior to this role, or to him coming in and on the city council, but definitely have formed a pretty good relationship. Definitely somebody I respect and admire an awful lot, and hope that continue to stick around Greencastle and continue to do good work there at DePaul. Lord knows they need it, right?
That's just true.
Thank you, Gary.
I have nothing else.
Thank you, Gary. I have learned so much from you. Mean, standard deviation, all those kind of words that were way back in my mind from
Fungible.
years ago. and
Fungible.
Fungible.
Your legacy will live on with some of the vocabulary that you've shared with us, but it won't be the same.
Thank you.
That's actually why I wanted to go last, because I wasn't sure if
You
Gary.
figured it out now.
Yeah, I figured, I didn't know if Gary was going to announce anything or not tonight, so. But Gary, we will definitely miss you. I will miss you because you would call me during the days and call me down and explain things to me that I still don't understand, so I guess I'll never be an economist. But I'll try. You know, I think, elections are always hard, and that was the other thing I wanted, because I definitely will miss Gary. I do want to make two observations on the last election, for whatever it's worth. I really wish people would vote. I haven't seen the final turnout for the city, but I know what it is for the county, and it's low. And I read a great article years ago by somebody who is probably as polar opposite me politically as is humanly possible. But he said the greatest threat to our democracy is people not voting. And I'm sure Mark will figure out at some point for me what the total cost per vote was with this election was, but it was low. So I don't know how you improve that. It's a national problem. But like Tyler, I occasionally venture into national issues, usually not. I also want to comment because this election was different, and I just want to reassure at least one of our city officials, Lori, that some of the stuff said and put on cars, I don't know where Lori is, but
She's working on some stuff upstairs. for us.
she's an outstanding asset to our city, and the contracts she produced and everything is just first class, and it should never, ever go personal. So I have total faith in her, and I know the rest of council does. I wanted to wait till after the election to say that, but I have total faith in Lori, and that's for whatever it's worth. A few other quick things. Operation Life continues to move along to a January 1st turnover. Everything seems really smooth. So, a third ambulance crew has been hired, which means the county will return on January 1st to 3 full ambulances running, which will definitely improve response time, especially north and south of us, but will also have a definite impact on the city, in that our ambulances won't be being pulled to the northern reaches of the county. We should always have one running in. Nothing is official, but I've been told that the impact on our Lloyd will not happen, so that should be a win for everybody. I keep hearing, Bonner Scholar this, Bonner Scholar that up here. We don't probably talk about them enough, but it is a great group of DePaul kids that are out in the city, and maybe at some point we could get them here. Probably should. And just thank them for some of the stuff they do, not only for the city government, but for a lot of our nonprofits.
Schools, yeah.
Schools, Humane Society, Away Home Shelter. Yep, comprehensive services. So maybe I'll try to look to do that this spring and get them here. I think that's important. Looking ahead, we've joked about it. This weekend is the Monon Bell. I will not get into my personal views on the game itself, having been the only one at this table who actually coached for them and never lost. But
That was a long time ago.
it was.
Adam, a long time ago.
And my greatest memory of that game was we were losing pretty badly up at Wabash right before half. The crowd had lost control. Unfortunately, the Wabash president was sick. They brought Bob Bottoms down, our president down. The officials said, "We got to control the crowd." Bob looked at him and said, "We're at Wabash. This is not my problem." And after some back and forth, the officials agreed. And then the one official said, "Dr. Bottoms, what do you want to see happen?" And the only time I've ever heard Bob speak like this, he turned to our sideline and said, "I want to score 3 touchdowns and get the hell out of here." Our sidelines erupted. We scored 3 touchdowns and got it. But anyway, I really hope it's a safe weekend. I do want to remind the people in town that traffic around DePaul, in all seriousness, will be a mess. With the construction, will be a double mess. So please come to the game, but understand parking and stuff is going to be very, very limited. We have some pre-sales, and we have there's lots of information up on our website. But just understand, and I'll try to get something out to the community somehow tonight or tomorrow, but Eric, if there's any way to stress that College Street is reopening on Monday, just so we don't have any accidents, that would be amazing.
DePaul is in the process of alerting the neighborhood.
But the town, I always get it, when we flipped Olive Street, I got all these emails, all these near misses, because we didn't get it out fast enough. So that's good. And finally, to our new council members, definitely welcome. I really wish I'd been able to go to those conferences, but unfortunately, being a swim coach, I don't go to anything. But if you have an opportunity to go, it took me about a year to figure out what they learned at the conference today. And 10 years later, I still really don't know. So that's what I got. I really can't think of anything else, so I'm good.
Bill, is Jackson Street going to be open the whole time Saturday, or is it shutting down at some point?
We're not closing Jackson this year.
Okay, it'll be
Typically,
open
they
all
have
time.
not closed it so they can get access to the parking
They've had
lots and
police
things.
there at times.
We have police, sheriff. We did have the 1 year when it closed. Remember, that was kind of a mess.
Debacle.
Yes, debacle.
Yeah.
But it is not being closed. DePaul Public Safety, sheriff, police, private police. There's going to be the world there to get people across. But some of the lots are closed in that area, so.
Times again?
1:07 PM.
7. The lots will not open early, and there's very few places to stage, so.
Lots opening at 9?
9, yes.
9 AM?
If you have a prepaid, you can get in at 9. I forget when the.
Stadium gates open at noon.
And you know, if you want to avoid all that mess, just watch it on TV.
Exactly.
There-
Or park a little further uptown and come down. But just, people need to just be aware, be safe, have fun,
There
buy
have been,
concessions from Dave.
Yes, you will.
there have been no parking signs posted in some of the residential areas. They just say no parking today, but they were supposed to say no parking residents only, but there are no parking signs out to try to direct people to the parking lots that DePaul is providing.
Living right there in construction, it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's every other year, it's a fun event. It brings some pride to the city. Highlights a great rivalry of two colleges, so that's it.
Okay, our next item of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular session from October 10.
I read them on my computer and didn't notice anything, so I'll make a motion.
Second?
Somebody will fight something.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
And one abstention.
Dave, are you doing claims? You should note that Mark did a very important event. He's spending time with his grandkids, so I think that's super important.
So we have the claims. Mr. Murray?
You got it. Payroll this month is $417,141.26. Pension, $15,366.80. Big month of direct payables totaling $816,626. The major expenditures, just over $500,000 of that is for the Indianapolis Road project to the contractor there. $183,000 plus for street paving, $31,000 plus for sidewalks to Joe Spiker. Wabash Valley was the paving. We've got redevelopment claims, nothing major other than $25,000 to civil engineering, totaling $41,000 plus. HBG insurance at $65.80. Again, regular payables at $49,666, just under $50,000. Again, for the total of $816,627. Accounts payable, we have a total of $143,201.32. The only major expenditure there was $32,970 to American Clean and Seal to work on the pool at the park. And having said all that, I will make a motion that we approve the claims as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims as presented. Any further questions or discussion?
I just want to thank Dave. He always comes in. I know we all look at him on our computer, but the fact that you can come in and go through them line by line is reassuring.
Well, thank you.
All those in favor of approving the claims, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
One abstention, KCCS.
We'll know when you have retired and no longer employable there, you won't have to recuse yourself on the claims.
I think it's seasonal. I think I'll be able to vote going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
We don't know when.
Okay, we have no old business, and the only item of new business tonight is discussion of the salary study, and Linda included some information in your packets and an additional email, so I will turn the floor over to Linda.
Okay, so, when we were doing the budget, I think in the month of October, we had lots of motions that included, doing some sort of salary study. I did reach out to one of our consultants that we sometimes do employment stuff with, and they provided us with a salary to do the amount of money it would cost to do the salary study. There's 3 options based on how many cities we want to do and take a look at. And then I also sent you all out the spreadsheet that I put together during the salary by calling up each city and getting information from their salary ordinance. And that was about 14 cities, and I think there was only about 5 that I did not hear back, 5 or 6 that we did not hear back from. But, so I sent you all that out to kind of take a look at. So I guess one of the questions would be, how do we want to proceed with this? Whether, what we've got here, we take a look at it, or we want to go with the salary compensation announcement and have them do the development of salary administration plan. I will tell you that this company went through with us, and we now have job descriptions, brand new job descriptions for every single position in the city of Greencastle. So that is the starting point of any salary study, so that has been completed and done. And we're almost ready to wrap that up. And that will be the new way that we will do evaluations on our employees, and hopefully we don't have any disciplinary action, but that it all kinds of flows together with having good, strong job descriptions. So that has been done and kind of ties in to doing a salary study.
So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. I was sitting in on the budget meetings, and we've been kicking this can down the road for a while, and our people are so important to us, and I think we owe it to them to reach outside of our small world and just kind of get a feel for where we are not paying enough and where we need to make some changes in order to keep our people. Then our biggest challenge will be obviously when we get the report back, where are we going to find the money? But I do think we have some disparity. We have some folks that have been very loyal to us, but I think some of our positions we are underpaying. I love that the job descriptions are going to be a part of it. I think it's going to be critical if we go with the 18,000 bid and we choose 5 cities that we really think through who we want those cities to be. And I also think it's important that we collect some benefit information, because even though we may pay a little less, our medical insurance may be better. So I think it's something we need to do. We keep putting it off, and I think it's money well spent.
Well- Okay. Okay. My thoughts are, a third set, a neutral set of eyes, so to say, looking at it is a good idea. They're not going to tell us, I think, anything that we don't know. We're underpaying on our employees. They're not going to be able to tell us where we're going to get the money from. That's what I believe. My biggest concern is is kind of a small paragraph print, and that is we are responsible for all their expenses during this issue. So in other words, they send, and I'm just going to throw a city. Say they send somebody to Fort Wayne overnight to look at what Bluffton's people are paying or whatever up in that area. We're going to be paying for all the expenses of their people that they send out. I'm concerned about the amount of money we're going to pay. I don't mind the 18,000. I mind the other stuff, you know.
One of the things I would share with you, Steve, on that is that we only incur those extra expenses once they're outside a 200-mile radius from where they are in Indianapolis. And I can't imagine that I agree with Stacy, we've got to choose the 5 carefully. I can't imagine we'll choose 5 that are outside a 200-mile radius from their offices. Now, there's some other incidental office supplies and things in there, but I don't think we have the exposure that I thought.
Is that 200-mile round trip or 200-mile one-way?
200-mile, outside of 200 miles from the office, so that's 400 miles round trip. So I think we're pretty good there. I had that same reaction at first.
I really don't think that will be a problem, because I have, over the last year, have participated in lots of salary items like this, that I will get a letter from a company, and I will email them back the information. They'll want maybe a copy of our handbook, they'll want a copy of our salary ordinance, they may have specific questions they ask me, so they make just a normal records request that I'm obligated to send back to them. And I always do get them back to them because I know they're spending a lot of money doing that, So there will be a lot of email correspondence going back between different cities.
Well, like I said, I had nothing against the 18,000. I did have some concern about any additional charges that could crop up in there.
I'm assuming that with up the 5 municipalities at the $18,000 figure here, that's a sufficient number of places to begin to equate certain job descriptions and job categories, that we don't need to go any higher than that in terms of being able to do that. Because I started out thinking, you did this wonderful spreadsheet that goes across, I don't know, what was it, 15 communities, and here's what the police chief is paid and the fire chief. It's not all apples and apples. Crawford's, you have all these police and fire chiefs in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, and here's the police chief and the fire chief in Crawfordsville getting over $83,000 a year. And then I remembered that 2 of the last 4 mayors have been firefighters. And gee, I wonder how that happened. So I think we need this to tie it back to the job descriptions to give employees fair and equitable payment, that people right now that are paid at the same level don't have the same skill set, and that we need this to really hone in on salaries.
I'm going to try now. So a couple things. One, I thought council kind of approved this, and it was my fault. I forgot that this exceeded Linda's authority, so it kind of sat for a month or 2, and it wasn't until we talked the other day that Linda reminded me that when I asked about it, that we had exceeded authority. I think what the compare sheet that you saw is great. That was done on cities, but every time we've looked at that compare sheet, we've said but. And it's not just like what you mentioned about Crawfordsville. In some cities, for instance, the park director now runs the cemetery. That obviously has to be factored into compensations. And I'm not saying we would do that. I'm just saying there is no apples. This is all apples to oranges. Yeah. I worry about 5. And I forgot, Linda, and pardon me, what would it cost to go up to the next level? Do you remember?
29,000.
29,000.
Personally, to me, we believe we have a salary problem. at some point, we're gonna have to make some very, very tough decisions.
And I guess that's where I am on this. Like, we don't pay our people well enough. We know that we don't pay our people well enough. We have, at best, an antiquated system of how we do compensation, right? And sort of this, using the longevity pay and all these sorts of things that have become really complicated, I think, because that was at the time a way to make up for that difference, right, by providing these sort of incentive systems in general. For $18,000, $29,000, $40,000, you could pay a person for that, right? You could have part-time work in the park for that. And my, I guess, perspective on it is that we know that it's a problem. We don't know where to find the money to fix it. And you talk about the trade-off piece. Crawfordsville's mayor is compensated well. Their police and fire chiefs are compensated well. People in Crawfordsville have to pay to have their trash collected. They have to pay to fix the sidewalks in front of their houses, right? And so it is all a system of trade-offs. I guess I don't find it justified to spend the money to look into a problem that we know already exists.
Well, if I can finish where I was trying to go with that, we need hard data, and I would rather go up and get it all, because the next council is going to have to we're going to have to make a decision. We're done kicking a can. We are going to say, A, we simply cannot pay our employees what other employees are making. Take it or leave it. That's one option. We can say, B, you really are getting paid equal. I don't think that's what we're going to find. We can say, we're going to find money to pay you at a competitive wage. That's going to mean some brutal decisions. Do we charge for trash? And I am not advocating a single one of these. Do we go to the nonprofits in our city and say, it's time that we at least discuss with us payments in lieu of taxes? Now, they could say no, but we could open the discussion. Do we close a department? Do we merge a department? I would like to have, yes, $20,000 would buy us another part-timer for summer. I would like to have as much data in front of me to know where I have to get to make those decisions. I want to know what Avon and Plainfield pay in Crawfordsville, but they're not cities like us.
Yeah.
But I still want to know, because that's where our employees, without moving, can easily go. I want to know what some of these other cities, maybe Madison has Hanover College in it.
I look at it as we've not done this. I don't, in my first 4 years, I don't know that Sue ever did it in her 8. And I don't know that any previous mayor has done a detailed study like this. And personally, I see 2 groups of communities we should really take a look at. One are competing communities that we lose to, primarily the surrounding ones. And then who are communities of like size and like resources. So we know what we're dealing with. But the other thing, I think, as Linda pointed out on part of her spreadsheet here, there's also some subtle nuances we have to work through, and in some ways Tyler alluded to them as well, is do these other communities have longevity pay? That doesn't show up in our salary ordinance per se, other than generally people are eligible for longevity pay. There's some issues relative to the number of hours before overtime kicks in for our police and fire departments. Our police department has take-home cars that they are limited to driving in Putnam County. Other departments, it's carte blanche. You can drive wherever you want. So some of those nuances, I think, are also important for us to understand. And do we need to make changes in those to align ourselves better with our competition, or do we keep some of those nuances similar to what we have now for other reasons, perhaps?
We actually left out a big nuance on overtime. It's not when it kicks in, it's how much they're accruing in overtime. Because when you look at our police and fire, what they're actually being paid is not what we're seeing on the salary ordinances.
I guess I'm jaded from working in higher education, where oftentimes the solution to anything is to pay a consultant to come in and look at something to tell you what you already know the problem is. And I don't know what 18 or 29 or $40,000 doesn't get us any closer to being able to solve the problem, which is we don't have enough money to be able to do all of the things we need to do and pay the people what we should pay them, right?
In higher education,
And-
on this problem, we don't have that. We don't pay a consultant. We have the GLCA. And we know through the GLCA and our
Well,
two school days-
but this is all public record, right? It's all dealing with cities and salaries and, like,
It's not that easy. I mean, Bill, to his credit, was the first mayor to really come out with this in a spreadsheet. Easy. And the minute you look at it, and I'll use Lori as an example, our city attorney's through the roof compared to others. But then you look at it again and you start calling around, which is time invested. You realize that our city attorney is also the city attorney for the Board of Zoning Appeals, for this, for that. We aren't using our city attorney like anybody else's. We're saying,
Well, they're billing out. A lot
They
of them
bill
don't
out.
even
yeah, that's
have
what
a
I
city
mean.
attorney.
They're billing it out, or they have a city attorney that only does City Hall. And unless somebody with professional eyes and a lot of time, we're gonna have to make a really hard decision.
and I guess I get that. But I don't know that the decision becomes any easier by throwing $40,000 to give me a result of a study that I already know the answer to.
You know the answer to the city attorney because we spent forever, we spotted it, we put a student on it, we spent forever digging it. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I don't wanna waste money
Well,
either.
the reality is, we don't have the staff time to do this ourselves, and to really spend the time that somebody who's done these other things, I mean, we've all got other responsibilities to work on and things like that. I mean, Linda made an excellent stab at this, but it's gonna take somebody some time to make the phone calls and to,
But I guess what is the deliverable? Yeah, like what do we get out of it?
I mean, I see this, there's a lot of information in this spreadsheet. What else are we gonna get?
Well, I think, I kind of read through this. They were gonna take, I think there was other things, there was other sources besides just city government that they were gonna take a look at, to come up with, the cost of what we should be paying employees. I think they're gonna take a closer look at looking at their total cost rather than just, straight salaries.
And one of the things, again, that's not shown up on the spreadsheet as it applies to this and that, what is it? We're paying 90% on our employees' insurance?
Correct.
Okay, 90-10. There's a lot of people out there that would take that 90-10. And there are some benefits that some of our department people heads receive that it doesn't show up as a part of the salary on that sheet. And so anyway, those are things, and that's why I tend to agree that maybe, and I'm hoping that this company would look at that, and figure that into the package as well.
I mean, a couple of years ago, we tried to look at the cemetery, and I got a reasonably bright, not our brightest student. He's graduated now, so I can say it. But a good student to try to take a stab at the cemetery and why we were paying and other towns weren't. And it was weeks of writing emails, rephrasing with cities to begin to figure out who even owned the cemetery.
And I don't doubt the labor intensiveness behind the problem. My question is, like Gary's question was, what do we expect to find out of the result of the survey that we don't already know today?
I want to know if our
we
employees are being
We
paid fairly.
expect the creation of an internal hierarchy point factor evaluation system based on a job description, not based on paying the same thing across seemingly similar positions. A laborer's job in the street department is not the same as a laborer in the cemetery, in the park, whatever. And we need something like that, it seems to. I started where the two of you are. I said, why are we going to spend this money? But we need some way to tie these positions back to why we're paying somebody something, based on what it is they do.
And if we in
My
turn,
guess is when we see this, Chris, that we'll say, we already knew that. And the other thing is where we're gonna get the money.
yeah,
And if we can find the money,
that's-
shame on us for not getting it earlier.
Exactly.
Like, I
Why
don't-
haven't we been paying? Right?
Because
all
now-
of a sudden we got these numbers, oh yeah, we need to change it, we're gonna take money from here, here, and here. Shame on us.
The problem is
Shame on
not
us.
any easier to solve by, like,
But we have it in black and white. We may find out that our water department people were paid a pretty good rate, a pretty good wage. But we may find out our fire department is 4,000 less than they should be. Well, if we make tough decisions like that, it's not that we're deciding it based on a survey we did. We've got information that a third source came out and handed to us. In the past, we've just given everybody a $1,200 raise or a $1,000 raise. Well, that just, over time, just doesn't work out for us. And I think we have a morale department problem in some of our departments, and I would think they would applaud this and cheer us on to go out and find out what we suspect.
We're gonna make, if this comes back as we all suspect, that we are low, we're gonna have to make some very tough decisions.
It may not be low everywhere.
And we might not be low everywhere, but we need hard data. If it comes back and it says, you know what, you're running par with the others, then we're not gonna make a hard decision that's a mistake. I mean, if we're low, something is going to give. And it's gonna give in a tough decision way. And I want as much hard data in front of me as I can before I either cut a salary, cut a department, or say we have a tax problem.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
So, just by looking at my spreadsheet here, I don't know how many of you have it, but if you look at it across the board here, the police chief, an average here, makes $61,000, okay? Now, our police chief with longevity, is getting close to that figure, okay? So we may clearly find that our police chief's salary is not that bad. However, our probationary officer in Greencastle is $38,579.58. They are not making longevity, so there's no extras. The average for someone out of the 15 communities that are like ours is $45,123. I think the point that Dave's getting at, and I totally agree on this, is that, we may not need to increase the salary of our police chief by $10,000, but we certainly may need to increase the pay of our probationary officer $5,000. And what has been happening over the years, since the last 8 years that I've been here, except for Bill and I worked really hard in their 17 budget
Yeah, 17.
to try to not pay everybody the same. But we've got a lot of years, and this next one including, that we pay $1,200, whether you are out fighting fires or whether you're digging a grave. Now, I'm not saying any position's any more important, but there is a different skill level there, and there's different training involved and the whole thing. That's what we're kind of lacking here. Do we need to pay every employee $1,200 every year, or do we need to get them up and then kind of take a look at it every
Well, we
year?
did address it, you're right, 2017, because some of our policemen were refusing promotion because they were actually making more money staying where they were and taking the OT versus moving up into, I think it was, quote me, I think it
Right,
was the
to a
sergeant.
captain or sergeant
Sergeant,
job.
yes. And that, hit us. And people in the audience, I'm sure I don't know who else is here, but you're all welcome to comment. We don't-
The other thing too is, through longevity, we hopefully recognize, people gaining experience every year, and, do we need to look at that system, or do we need to get rid of it, or keep it? My wife is in the audience, but, she commented today that she was pleased to see that the Indianapolis starting wage for first-year teachers went up to $45,000. The reality is, here in Greencastle, a teacher might have 10 to 15 years' experience and not even make $45,000 for what is essentially the same job. Now, we may not have the same resources Indianapolis has, but, those are the kind of, things we know are out there and are a problem, but we don't have either order of magnitude numbers or really the slightly in-depth information that, you know, might help us illustrate the problem to both ourselves as well as our employees.
Can I make a suggestion how to move at least somewhat forward, that we split this into two issues? The first one being, do we want to engage this company? And then the second one being, if we choose to engage them, the size. Because I think there's the philosophical question that Tyler's raising, which is, do we even want to engage? And then there's a second question of how big do we engage, if we engage. So right now, we've got two debates going, and it might just be simpler.
Well, I'll tell you what, so we can at least move the conversation forward. I'll make the motion
We can take it to board.
that, I'll make a motion that we engage this company.
Okay. Leave it at that. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, so so right now, we're just discussing, I'm not trying to ram anything
Well-
through, we have too many discussions going in my head.
Here, do you wanna-
That's why I say.
No, I'm very
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
That's what I'm saying, let's start with, do we want
In fact,
to
they're a little
engage an outside
cheaper than
vendor
the other one.
to look at salaries? And then we go from there. If that passes, we go to the next discussion.
Linda and I were kibitzing here on the side, and she did receive some additional information from another company. She's very comfortable with these folks, and these guys were actually, a little cheaper than the other proposal.
And these are the folks that did our job descriptions,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
The other
We're going to try to tie back to salary and compensation.
Right.
And Linda, if we do this, will we have this data by the time we sit down at the end of the summer and do the budget?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we'll have this data in about 3 months.
Yeah, she,
Remember, we talked about not waiting till the end of summer. We'd
Yeah.
like to start
Start early.
in
Yeah.
February.
Yeah, because we're gonna assign a budget committee come January.
Yeah.
Whatever the first council meeting is, that first Thursday or second Thursday.
if they can start 12/1, they have proposed a 4/1 completion date.
By April 1st,
Yeah.
starting December 1st and
4
ending
months.
April 1st.
Yeah, because we have to start the budget thing earlier, if we feel we need to look at stuff.
You know, the biggest thing in our budget that has the potential resource for us is the public safety lit. However, it's also the one that has some risk to it because the county can adjust that every year. It's not like our edit dollars that, you know, they're kind of set moving forward. So, you know, that causes us some risk. I mean, you know, we could grant large pay raises, but then if that gets cut, we either cut something else or we let people off.
Linda, where would this money come from? Assuming it's somewhere between 50, I'm just going to go a wide range, 15 to 24,000 in there, where would this money come from?
What, to pay for this?
Yes.
We would have edit dollars, we have CCD dollars, we have CCI dollars, I have, riverboat money. So, I mean, I have plenty of
Okay.
funds to pay for this.
Do we need to have more discussion on the
To
philosophy
say
of doing it?
you've got a motion and a second. on
That's
the
what I was
floor.
going to say. Still, you
Because
know,
I would rather spend $18,000 to lobby legislators in Indianapolis to change the way that we fund municipalities than I would to study a problem that I know exists.
I love you, Tyler, you're an optimist. No, I mean that sincerely.
I think we need to do it. I don't know that I'm ready to jump on the 29,000. I would
No, I
hope
just
that we'd
threw
be able,
range.
identify 5.
That would be the next debate.
Typically, we run contracts through our Board of Works. If you guys are comfortable in, you know, like a maximum amount not to exceed like $30,000, we can, you know, look at, you know, maybe we go with 8 communities and settle on that, and they adjust the amount a little bit or something like that.
Well, let's see if we can get the first motion through or not, because then we can talk about dollars. So Steve's made a motion, Stacy seconded it. I'm assuming everybody's okay if I call the question? All right,
Got motion and a second. Any further question or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So is that
So we got 4,
4.
4 ayes,
1, and
1 nay, and 1 abstain?
We're going to leave the State House to you and Cody.
No, I'll go. I love going.
So
Now that my
the
president
motion,
said be
the
with you.
motion passes by a majority of the council with 4 ayes and 1 nay and 1 abstention.
And I remind council that we do require 4 positives, but we cannot pass on a majority of the people here tonight. So then the question is, do we want to put a dollar limit? Do we want to put a city limit? And just send it over to Board of Works with that, or I am open.
I go back to my initial question, is 5 communities enough
I would,
to be able to equate things, or do we need a little larger N, if you will, statistically?
And who identifies those communities? Is
We
that a
do.
Phil and Linda thing? Okay, good.
Well, somebody does. Somebody in Greencastle does it.
can you
So-
remind, go ahead.
We,
I was wondering is if we did the 10, that we take 5 of our like communities that are most like us, that maybe even there's a couple of these that have very much similarities because they have a college in their town, they have, they had the stellar, were awarded stellar money, that kind of thing here. And then we would maybe do 7 of our like communities, and at least get our 3 that our police and fire are comparing themselves to, like Avon, Plainfield, and possibly Brownsburg, maybe.
Those are the 3 places where
Places.
we've lost, in talking
That-
with the
that
fire
we're
chief and the
losing
police
too.
chief, those are the places we've lost people to.
Do we have actual hard data on where they've gone to?
well, we can pull
We can, we
that.
can
I mean,
make that
like,
happen,
it's-
but.
if we're gonna compare to those communities, let's compare.
I mean, we could also look at, just pull 2 from, Crawfordsville is one, even though it's a larger community, has a much larger tax base, it's a constant comparison between the 2.
Sure.
And so that could be one. The Danville is significantly different than Avon, Plainfield, and Brownsburg. That might be one we leave in, and maybe pick one of those other 3, Avon, Plainfield. and
Bluffton would be one we would.
Bluffton's very similar to us.
Wabash is very
Wabash.
similar. Angola is almost
Angola.
identical.
Plymouth has some similarities.
Is Trine up in Angola?
So,
Trine is in Angola. That would be more similar, though they only have like a street in Angola. That's, I mean, it's not it's not the same. Yeah.
I mean, they're not as big as DePaul, but they do have a college there.
No, yeah, Trine is a big university. The town itself is a street and a circle.
How many acres, do you know, Tyler? When we look at Crawfordsville, what is the footprint of Wabash College, do you know?
It's not huge by any means.
So it's not as big a
Couple
percentage
blocks.
as we.
Oh, God, no.
Couple blocks, right?
Yeah, and I mean, Hanover is not in Madison, it's in Hanover.
Right.
yeah.
It's out by itself.
It's
on
out
the
by
road.
itself.
Franklin,
Franklin. But Franklin as a community is quite a bit larger, I
Yeah,
think, than we are.
Franklin's larger.
well, I would trust the mayor and Linda to come up with the cities. I don't know them.
The other thing
Martinsville's pretty close.
the other thing we'll look at is, I'm not sure about Brownsburg, but Plainfield is actually a fire district,
Yeah.
which is a little bit different. It's a different funding mechanism, different territory. So we'll kind of need to take a look at that. The other thing we'll look at is some of these don't have, they may not have a water utility. So we might want to look at that too.
Well, that's what we got into with the cemetery. Some had, some didn't.
Cemetery, we're just going to probably have to take, because there's not very many communities in Indiana that have cemetery.
No, I'm just saying we're gonna run into water districts, fire, all that. Did we, in the motion, somebody put a dollar cap?
No,
Anybody made
Nobody's
a
made a
motion?
motion
No
yet.
motion yet on that.
It looks like it's 3,600 per community if we do 5. Do we have to fit into one of these 3 options, or could we assume that 3,600 per community, so we'll do 6, or we'll do 7?
Well, it says if we
Fixed
go
rate
to
for any
6,
6 to 10.
6 to 10, we're at the
If you're
20.
paying the same
Have
rate, you
known-
might as well
Get a
do 10.
quantity
I
discount.
know,
It's
so you
10.
don't think there's any, we have to fit into one of these 3 options?
How much is 10 again?
10's 29,000.
20, yeah, 20.
see, to me, that's too high.
That's a big number, yeah.
I think,
5 is 18,000, which is 3,600 each. If we could do 6 or 7, could we do it for 21,000 is my question.
I could talk to her about that.
Why don't we make a cap? I hate making a motion, President. I'll make a motion that we cap it at 23,
Six would give us.
well, let's just say 22,000. And let the mayor and Linda decide down from there or up, not up, but that's our cap.
What's the cap?
22,000.
I was just throwing that out there in the hopes we could get to 6 or 7 cities. But we can go down, we just can't go up. Does that make sense? You know, gonna work?
Well, I mean, the way, like, a fixed rate fee, I mean, I suppose they could negotiate, but a fixed rate fee is a fixed rate fee.
And I think if you want to do more than 5, you do the 29,000. It's
Yeah.
not that big a difference for
True.
picking up an additional 5. And you'll be able to include the college towns, and you'll be able to.
You're right. I mean,
We're
it
losing
sounds
too.
big, but it's not that much
Only
more.
$11,000 in the whole scheme of thing, it's not that much.
I'd like to ask the question,
But
could
we-
we do between 5 and 10 and not jump right up to the 29,000?
But can we give them some authorization here? Because if we wait and then come back in December, we're gonna push the study out till,
May or
May
June.
1st, yeah.
so could I make a motion that we like them to ask for 5 and 10, but we authorize up to, like, would you rather go to 5 or would you rather go all the way up? Which is your choice?
We should cap it at 29,
That's what I was trying to get at. So cap it at 29, but
In
we,
hopes that we pay less.
and
can
ask them to try to
negotiate
get it
less.
down.
Second.
So cap it at 29? Adam, are you making that motion?
Sure.
And Steve seconded it.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second to cap the expenditure at 29,000. I would ask a point of clarification. Does that include expenses or modest amount of expenses on top of
Modest
that?
amount of expenses, because I think.
The expenses are not
We're
going
not
to be
gonna have
significant.
I think Linda's right. I mean, the expenses are a throwback to the era when you traveled. I mean, today, most of this is online.
I
Most
mean,
of this
we
is
deal with
email.
other contracts where we have, expenses, and sometimes we cap those, sometimes they're open-ended, it just depends on the contract, but, okay.
The only one who zaps us with expenses is the state for the audit.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or clarifications or discussion? Hearing none, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. 4 ayes,
Nay.
1 nay,
Are you abstaining?
1 abstention. Okay. Motion passes by a majority of 4.
Before you say anything, Gary, before you say anything, is there any other new business? No, you can't.
And that does conclude our business, so Gary makes the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Need a second and a motion.
I'll second it.
Anybody opposed?
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nobody abstain?
Nobody abstained? Okay, thank you very much.
We missed Mark's bet by 7.